You know, like if all you're listening to with in that section is the piano's just going ding, 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 while the rest of it's doing all this chaotic stuff. And I love the feeling of that because then you can just sort of zone in on it, right? Like, where's the piano here? Yeah. Because then it gets complicated without being complicated at all, right? That's like, it's ding, 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 but then where it flips around is great. And actually getting people to learn it is hilarious because people are just like, that part, right? And then this guy here, oh yeah, love it. Right, so Ableton is where it's like a playground. So I've got the push 2, and I basically just loop these sections, bring them in, and I just jam over it, make crazy sounds, and then export it back into Pro Tools, and there we go. My armpits are sweaty. I think that's good, right? Am I free to go, or do you want me to continue to talk?
You're done.
I'm done? Okay. All right. Anybody have any other questions?
Let's take some questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
When you're layering guitars, which amp models do you use? Like for the high gain and approach? They're the same model, different models?
Different models. In the Axe, it's different for whichever one I use, right? But in the Axe-Fx, I used Herbie Diesel Channel 3, but I made my own cab synth. Like I loathe cab synths because every time you open it up, you have 9,000 cab synths, and they all sound like shit, right? So I made my own, and I really like it. And then for the half gain one, I use like a Jump JCM thing. And then I've got like a litany of effect guitars that I've been using for years. Like, for example, the one that I tend to default to, where are we here? Where's Echo? All choir, right? Oh, they're up there. Right. Okay. So I've got the Dirt guitars, the JMP, Empath guitars, which is so this is like the Marshall sound. And this is like the Fender sound. And then over top of it, I've got like the Diesel. And then I've got effects, and I always bring the guitar effects separate, so here's one. There's a plugin that I use called Brower Motion, I think it is. And to give some more space to the effects guitars, because they also take up a lot of real estate, I'll play them and then I'll put the plugin on top of it, just so in the spectrum it's moving around, right? And then I've got this effect guitar, which is a sound I've been using for 30 years. It's just like a big, fuzzy, Roland GP 100 sound. And then I've got this sound. What is this here? Oh yeah, so it's an octave, right? What I use for that is actually a Mark bass pedal. It's for a bass, right? But again, other than this, the Diesel guitar, which still gets in the way, I use the synths now to give that low-end distortion. So I just layer a ton of guitars.
So they're different performance?
Yeah. Oh yeah, always, always. Otherwise, you run into phase, right? For me at least, right? Anybody else have any other questions?
I saw on there you had a track called Dev Leopard.
I do. Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. I loved Hysteria, man. Dev Leopard is a snare, I think. Let's see. But again, because that's not in the actual drum mix, so I can just, you know, bring that in and have like a... like the mix that I was presented is really cool, but it's also very, you know, the mid-range is taken out of it, which is a cool sound, but it's like I need it back. So adding Deb Leppard gives me just a bit of ring and a bit more attack. And then I added this one too, whatever the hell this is, right? Yeah. So this one, oh, I love this. So what I did with this is there's a studio in Vancouver that has this beautiful room that the snare sounds great in, but I don't want to, so I don't want to use it for things such as reverb if I did. So what I did is I went in with a bunch of PA wedges, and I took a bunch of various snares and pumped it through the PA and then mic'd up the room, and then just made a sample, like a static sample of the reverb in the room, and it works so good. It's cheesy, but it's like, wait. You can still hear the hi-hat in there, but in with the, and without it, it's, and then for the kick, which if I was to do this again, I would turn up the kick in the last chorus, is this sample. Just a big dump. You know what I mean? So basically, yeah, the work that I do is, I mean, I love doing it. It's just making puzzles and then trying to make it work in the headphones, right? Anybody else have any other questions before I take a well-deserved break from NAMM? Sure.
I'll take two more.
There it is.
Can you recall the song that has the absolute most transparency?
I think it keeps updating itself every record. The more powerful my computers get, the more of a menace I become, right? At one time it was Truth. Singularity off of Empath is a nightmare. But that's also in 6 parts, so I was able to sort of offshore some of the processing power by doing it differently. But to be honest, it's like people have mentioned to me in the past that you know, the whole wall of sound thing I do is something that the implication when people talk to me about it is that I'm doing it to be provocative, like I'm trying to like outdo myself in terms of track count, or you know, or I'm making a bunch of different types of music because I'm trying to prove that I do different types of music, but it's truly not about that. It's just as my life changes, you know, music is a byproduct of it, and somewhere along the line I got fascinated with like a really big environment, creating a really big environment sonically, and so never am I going out of my way saying, oh man, I can't wait to make this session bigger. In fact, I'm so thankful when a session is small. It's a pain in the ass to mix this. It's a pain in the ass, man. And then also when it comes to, you know, I did the Casualties of Cool project with Che, and it was really great. But I mean, I remember when it came out, people were like, oh, you're really testing your audience. I'm like, holy shit. I wish that my intention was to try and be provocative with it, as opposed to thinking, well, how am I going to explain this one? How am I going to explain that my musical proclivity wants to articulate itself through country music, or wants to articulate itself through this? And I keep wishing that one day what's going to come naturally to me is like a bunch of pop music that people are going to love. But I can't force it. So until that time, I mean, you know, I'm making space shuttles landing in the ocean and kittens. And you had another question? Last question.
I noticed earlier you mentioned you used 3 different microphones for your vocals.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like, what aspects of each you use for each specific vocal style, or what?
Sure, it's a good question. For the real screamy stuff, I use an SM7 because I could really hit it hard, and it actually you can't. There's a really ugly breakup that happens when you scream too loud into like a nice tube microphone. Although it's got a nice high end, it's like it sounds brittle and weird, right? But the SM7 doesn't have that pristine high end, and it's actually the capsule on it is much like an SM58, so you can just scream into it. You can't really be too loud for it. and you can compress it harder because it's got less dynamic range, and it works well for heavy vocals. 414 AKG, I mean, I've been using that for years, and I don't love the sound of it, but for whatever reason, it really works well with my quiet voice. It's got a lot of high end, and it's got a good sort of mid-range for me because I got this weird spike at like 3.5 in my voice that is like sort of not as present on that microphone, but it's a hard sounding mic as well, so I got to be really careful with the transients on that, so I do a lot of de-essing with that. And then SE Electronic sent me this really beautiful Rupert Neve massive dildo of a mic, and it's like really nice for normal singing, you know? But I've got an idiosyncratic voice, so I kind of just have to, again, trying to make it all work in this frequency range is a nightmare. So I gotta be careful with my frequencies. Anybody else?
I got a question.
Real quick.
Real quick. I got it. How does one negotiate royalties with a cat?
I think as long as it's in your household, you can just share it under the guise of you're being fed, so you might as well keep it down.
That makes sense. My next question was ask cat or BM meow, but
Ask cat or BM meow?
or so cat. It's your call.
SoCat all the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's the passive-aggressive Canadian publishing royalty. It's like it collects royalties like in an underhanded way, but apologizes for it the whole time.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Devin. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for hanging out with us today, guys. Give some more presentations tomorrow with Chris O'Reilly, Chris Tweed, Andrew Shepps all throughout the day. So we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.